Welcome to Journeys of Empowerment. I'm your host, Michiel Sujit Rijt, and this podcast is all about amplifying people empowerment. We all want to make a difference, not just in our lives, but in the lives of others. Yet challenges often hold us back. So how do we turn adversity into growth? Journeys of Empowerment brings you real stories and insights from role models who faced struggles, embraced transformation and created impact. Because empowerment isn't a solo journey, it's a ripple effect. Empowerment starts with the choice. Your choice to listen, learn and take action. Tune in and start amplifying your impact. And before we dive in, a quick shout out to our sponsor Neotopia, helping leaders turn behavior change into lasting impact. If you're leading a team, you know how tough it can be to get people on board with change. Resistance, disengagement, old habits, sounds familiar? The truth is, change shouldn't be left to chance. That's why Neotopia has developed a proven methodology to help leaders create real lasting impact. It all starts with the awareness session, a powerful workshop where you discover why behavior change fails and how to fix it. A structured approach to make change stick and how to lead teams who take ownership, not just follow orders. When change is done right, it saves time, energy and frustration and helps build a thriving work culture. Curious? Join the awareness session and experience it for yourself with neotopia.nl. To sign up today. I had the pleasure of speaking with Kobi Ampoma, a dynamic leader in talent recognition and career development at Heineken. From his early days in Ghana to thriving in the Netherlands, Kobi's journey is a testament to resilience, self-discovery and redefining success on his own terms. In our conversation we explore his transformative career path, the high-stakes world of talent leadership, and the power of one pivotal conversation to change everything. But beyond the workplace, Kobi shares his deeply personal approach to parenthood, relationships and balancing growth with fairness, offering invaluable insights on leadership both at work and at home. If you're looking for inspiration on navigating career transitions, standing up for yourself and embracing your full identity, this episode is for you. Enjoy the conversation and let's amplify people empowerment together. Kobi, welcome. I'm so happy that you're here, and to be honest, I'm always impressed when I see you.
Well, Hugh, thank you very much for having me. And I think the feeling is mutual.
Thank you very much. But it always starts already with a laugh, because if you see and if you know you, and also it makes me think about the last picture I saw of you in at the Heineken in your green tuxedo. Man.
Well, I would say I always think about the things that I wear, so it's mostly intentional.
Yes, yeah, we know, fashion. Yeah. Hey, great. But hey, for the people who don't know you, of course, we did an introduction about you before we started this conversation. Yeah. But let's start with your also impressive professional career.
Yeah.
And who is Kobi?
Who's Kobi? Well, I would say, Kobi is a kid who grew up in Ghana and moved at 11 years old to the Netherlands. Obviously integrating in a country where, didn't speak the language. Through my parents. My dad was a refugee. He got his political asylum in the Netherlands. Hence, we came to the Netherlands. So adjusting to that reality, learning a language, going to school, obviously understanding different cultures, I think that has helped me become, the person I am today. But also education is very, very high in at least in my culture, in my family. So there was always an emphasis of do your best in school, make sure you graduate, make sure you get a degree. It doesn't really matter what kind of degree, but at least a degree. Because they want you to stand on your both 2 feet. Uh-huh. So that has really, really helped me, lay the foundation as a person. And I'm also big in sports, so I love sports. I love to watch sports. I played high-level basketball in the Netherlands, which also gave me a sense of belonging. That was my identity for a long while. I think I started when I was 14 years old. Initially, I could not really play the sport. My dad said, hey, I can only let you practice, but I want to see you do well in school for a year before you can actually join the team. So a big basketball fan. I'm not named after Kobe. I'm actually older than Kobe. Rest in peace. But yeah, that has really, really formed me, my career as well.
Of course. Well, we will for sure dive into the starting point and all the impressive things you've done to come where you are at now. But what are you doing now in career? What are you doing?
So my current role that I have is I'm responsible for our talent acquisition team within Heineken. Heineken has 3 different companies in the Netherlands. So the first one is the Heineken World Headquarters, which is in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. Then we have Heineken Netherlands, which is the commercial arm in a country. And then we have Heineken Supply, which is the brewery. So the beer that we brew, we have a few different locations. I manage a team of 21 people, and we are responsible for actually bringing in the talent within the Heineken organization.
That's an easy job, right? Because if you're Heineken, you get all the talent in the world, right?
Well, I would say
I'm teasing.
It's not always easy. I mean, Heineken is a well-known brand, so a lot of people gravitate to the company based on its rich history. But there are some disciplines that we need to also fight compared to other companies in the Netherlands. Netherlands is really big on tech. So if you look at the tech talent, there's always demand. And the last, I would say, maybe 10 years, there's been a great booming market for startups in the Netherlands who are also, attracting a lot of tech talent. So it's not always easy, but it helps to have a company which has a rich history where people also, can thrive. Because I believe Heineken has great learning opportunities based on the different operating companies, either in the Netherlands, but also worldwide. So it really helps.
And head of talent acquisition.
Yeah.
Why talent acquisition?
Well, that's a great question, Michiel. How do you call it? I studied human resource management.
Okay.
And the reason why I studied it is that as a deacon, I shared with him what I liked. And he said, hey, then human resource management is something for you. Because I told him that one of the things that I would like to reflect in my job is that the people are the center of it. And he said, hey, then you should do human resource management. So I studied human resources management. And actually I have 2 things that I'm very proud of. So I got to get my degree and I also got to meet my wife at school. So those are the 2 things I'm very, very proud of. But that's why I'd say I went to the people function. And then, through my career, I got to understand, how I am as an individual. What gives me a lot of energy is the people part, but also recruiting people, engaging with people, understanding what drives them, how they can add value to your company. So I would say that has been, the reason why I'm in talent acquisition.
Wow, beautiful and interesting that it sounds so logical, easy, and with sort of one question, you already know, like, hey, this is so much resonating with what I'm hearing from my deacon. Is it really just one conversation, one moment that really determined the path you went on?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in my case,
I admire that. That's great.
Yeah, because I grew up in a household where my mom was in banking.
Yeah.
So initially I want to do something in banking, but then I thought, well, that's not for me, right? Sometimes you want to follow your footsteps of your parents. But looking at myself, looking at the things that I love to do, people were always at the center of that. So then I thought, hey, why not try it? And every year I passed, so then I continued, and beautiful things happened to that. So maybe just to also, it's interesting that I got my degree and also my wife, which we've been together for 25 years.
Yeah.
Now. So
amazing. 25 years. That's You're so lucky.
Yeah. I cannot complain.
I saw the beautiful picture of you, and also so it was with your wife, right?
Correct. My backbone.
Your backbone, Now, and what I can remember and a previous conversation we had, a one-on-one some years ago, was that one of the key drivers, because I was curious at that moment, and still always looking for, hey, if people are so long together, it's always a challenge to grow with each other to grow in each, because we evolve over time, and it's always a challenge to stay aligned. And you said something beautiful. Do you remember what you said?
I remember.
What the magic? For me, it's almost like a magic formula.
Yeah. Well, this is not something that I came up with myself.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but
it worked.
It's all about being committed in each other's growth and evolution. Because you will grow, but you can either grow together or you can grow separately. But you need to be committed in each other's growth. So, I think, for example, my wife is my backbone, like I call her every day. She's the one who will say, hey, I agree or disagree. I think you could do this. I think you do that. Have you thought about that? So those are the things that I think is very important in life as well, to have somebody who, you can have a relationship with, but you could grow with as well. And she happens to also be in HR. So,
which part of HR? Learning and development, compensation, benefits, recruitment? Or
no, she actually heads up an HR function. So she started as an HR advisor, HR manager, and now an HR director. So she owns the whole facet of HR, and I can at least give her some advice when it comes to talent acquisition.
At least that's the feeling that she gives you.
Yes.
Oh man. Hey, and when you look at your whole personal background, I see growth in everything what you do. It's a sort of, I would say it's a sort of value it's a sort of core value for you. Grow personally, professionally, the people around you. So that's where does that come from? Where does that the urge to grow?
Well, I think reflecting a few years back, I think it has to do with the family that I'm from. From my grandma, she really instilled in her family that evolving is very important. So you need to grow. You need to surround yourself with people who can also help you grow. And you need to also take the opportunity when it's presented. So I have been really, really evolved around that, I would say. And that has really, really helped me through my career as well. So I would say it is really, really something what is instilled in us at a young age. And I can see it with my sisters as well. All family members, everybody's always trying to grow, either personally or professionally. But there's an element of growth in there. It's obvious. It shows. And also, what's interesting when I look at your LinkedIn bio is that you are heading some board memberships. So for OMAC, Crude, Talent Partners. That makes me curious because I think head of talent acquisition at Heineken is already busy. Why also the board memberships? So I think, when you progress through your career and when people get to know you or when people get to know what you share, then they become a little bit more curious. And then they think, hey, maybe it's interesting if we have this guy as part of our board. So I remember doing a presentation maybe 1.5 years, 2 years back. And then one of the founders from Talent Link said, hey, Kobi, would you mind being part of our board? And in all honesty, this is something that, once per quarter or once every 2 months, you jump on a call, people virtually, and there are different topics. You provide your input or you also learn. But just to give you an example of the people who are part of a Talent Link's advisory board, you have people from Meta there, you have people from Shell there, you have people from KLM there, You have myself there. You have people from, I've got Hasbro, the gaming company. So there's Sony. So there's a lot of companies present who have leaders in talent acquisition or talent management who you get to associate yourself with, right? So I always talk to myself, you can pinch yourself being in those rooms because those are all senior people who have experience, 15, 20, 30 years. And you are also part of those conversations. So I think, being part of a board membership, it costs time. It's an hour of your time. But I also have a direct connection to them. If I have any challenge that I'm facing, I can give somebody a call who is either at a similar type of company or an interested industry where I can get some insight of. So that's the learnings that I've gotten from being part of those board memberships.
Yeah, and again, it boils down to growth.
Yeah.
Each other, right? And beautiful. And OMAC.
Yeah.
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 Kimo, when are you coming in this podcast? We for sure we will, but but he is also a busy schedule. So Kimo, I direct call.
You're gonna call. Well, we both have his number, so we can always give Kimo a shout out. But I also think being part of the advisory board membership of OMAC is something that happened organically. I met Kimo maybe 5 years ago.
At Nike?
Somebody connected us, and somebody said, "Hey, Kobi, based on the whole your passion around D&I and community building, you should talk to Kimo." So I reached out to Kimo. Actually, this is a very, very interesting story. I connected with him on LinkedIn, and when I connected with him, when he accepted, I also saw a few hours later that he was doing a summit. So then I immediately bought tickets. So what he told me is that he found it so interesting that he connected with somebody, and then an hour later, this person is buying
the tickets
for this summit. And then I think the summit was maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks later. I show up on the summit together with Edson, I think Hato, who used to be part of ABN AMRO. I think he's now doing a role at the Ministry of the Netherlands. Together, it was at 10 o'clock at a Saturday morning. We were the first two people who showed up, and then the camera was not on, so to say. So we were said, this black guy, he's doing a summit, and then we had the first one in, and then he said, "Hey, I can hear you guys," So that's how it started, and but very, very proud of what Kimo is doing. Bringing communities together, making sure that the community is seen by a lot of corporate companies. And to be part of that, to play a role, to give back with knowledge and expertise, that's something I also love to do. So also as part of my growth. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, beautiful. And I've been for the first time at OMAC last summer, and it really immersed. I immersed myself in the whole feeling of connectedness. Different perspectives, beautiful talks, the atmosphere, everything felt right. Everything. And we were all a lot of differences, and yet everybody was gluing together. And I guess that's a superpower of a beautiful gathering, organizing a beautiful gathering. So for sure, I'm a fan.
Yeah, and I'll let him talk about it when he joins your show one of these days. But I think that's what he's trying to create, right?
Yeah.
Trying to bring community together, to let the community know the superpowers that they have. Having a bicultural identity, because I also have kids who are bicultural. So, it's very important for me to also instill the superpowers that they have and how they can navigate different cultures, different environments, different rooms. And I think that's one of the superpowers that bicultural talent have. But I'll let Kiva talk about it.
Yeah, of course. And the interesting thing is why it resonates for me so deeply is that for the first time I visited a D&I event with Sasha, a friend of mutual friend, Sasha well, and she brought me along, and I'm adopted. Grew up in Beeldhoven, Amersfoort, in New York, but typical white community. And but I never felt excluded. And but ultimately, being now surrounded by a lot of different cultures, I have more in common with the feeling of being bicultural and grew up bicultural than I was aware of, because all the conversations, all the little things that we talk about, that we experience navigating through life in a predominantly white culture, was for me like, hey, I recognize a lot more than I thought I would. So for me, it's a real eye-opener, and I love the feeling. It's a sort of shared commonality, although we're all different. That's interesting. We share something that I even didn't know and wasn't aware of. Yeah, of course. If I look at my hand, I see a brown hand, of course. And if I look in the mirror, I have no genetic markers with the average Dutch person. Yet, growing up with Dutch parents in typical little villages as Beeldhoven, it was all white. So, and I felt, I think, sort of white until. So it is beautiful. So I crave to be there, surrounded, and also the DNNL network, where was the 17th of January, and I was volunteer. So and I love the energy, and I love a little bit to drive and keep time management, and so I took up on that role. So everybody, 5 minutes and let's go. But all the conversations and the depth and the connection, that's beautiful.
Well, I have a similar story as well, where I grew up in Diemen. And this is in 88, so almost 32 years ago, something like that, right? That's also a small village which was predominantly white. You had another African family, a few Turkish, Moroccan family. But when we were playing, outside, and also football or whatnot, you could see, how we navigated through that, how, the different cultures and the different backgrounds could really blend in. But you had a sense of, okay, a majority of us, there is a minority group in the neighborhood. What I also really found interesting is that I had a lot of different friends. So I have white, black, Sudanese, Curacao, Turkish, Even my school that I went to, was very, very diverse. I went to school with Clarence Seedorf, Danny Lansart, Björn Lundenburg, all different cultures. And you have a sense of belonging because there's an identity. Everybody understands each other. Everybody's a little bit different. But I would say that has also really defined who I am and how I navigate with the different cultures. Well, this is only when you reflect back, in the moment you do. But when you reflect, it's like, actually, I really grew up in a different environment, and that has definitely helped me navigate things.
Yeah, and they're beautiful, and that's that, and I think and that for me was totally different because it was predominantly white. So I almost didn't perceive any differences. It's but now in hindsight, of course, I always felt different. Yeah. And but I was always very keen on trying to fit in, and because you don't want to be different. Yeah. And as growing up as a child, right? Yeah. And hey, if we go all the way to that 11-year-old boy, you were living in Ghana. Yeah. And what led you to the path of coming to the Netherlands? Or was it straight away to the Netherlands or via?
No, it was straight away to the Netherlands, but we didn't make a few pit stops because back then you didn't have any direct flight from Ghana to the Netherlands. Yeah. So we made a few pit stops in neighboring countries and then eventually ended up in the Netherlands because my dad, who was a political refugee, got his asylum in the Netherlands and he could bring the family together. And as a result of that, in June 1988. All of a sudden you are in a different country, people speaking different languages, and you have to adjust. And then a few months later you start school. And I had to learn the language first. My sisters could go to, what they call the basisschool. So I think it's junior school or primary school. But because I was 11, becoming 12, I had to learn the language first and then, dictate what kind of level you are. And then that's how I went to the system. But yeah, it was adjusting. It was a little bit colder as well. Getting used to hot temperatures in Ghana compared to, sometimes hot temperatures and sometimes cold temperatures. But I think we navigated through that really well, based on, my parents, really helping us out, making sure that we had school, we had food. My parents worked very hard as well. So that was the journey, but they played a very important role in making sure that we were safe as well.
And safe on the one hand. And what makes me curious is you also say hard. Hard in what way?
Well, hard in terms of predominantly on the educational side, right? So you have to do well in school. You have to be, top 3. So in Ghana, there was actually a thing that you're always ranked, right? In the Netherlands, you are not ranked. So if you have a school of 25 kids, in Ghana, you are ranked. So my parents said, "Hey, we want you to be top 3."
And ranked based upon your test scores,
on your test scores, right? So that's how you also get into different schools. Later
you knew that as a child already that you were ranked.
Yes,
it was not with the parent. You knew that. Wow. That's heavy. That can be heavy if you're under the break line of, let's say, if you're to class of 25 and you're at the 23rd. And you know that.
But I think that's also an element of, living in Ghana or third world countries where they look at, different societies and education. That's very important. So, where are you compared to other people is always an element that you need to think about. But in the Netherlands, that was not the case. Although that was not the case, my parents made an emphasis of, doing well in school, always having good grades and supporting. One of the things that they always did is they always made sure that they were present at our report card. I think one of the challenges for a lot of communities is that if you don't understand the systems, right, your parents don't go to the report card with you. So as a result of that, you do what you think you are doing, and maybe you're not doing it well, but then you don't have any parents supporting you. My parents made sure that they were there. They heard it directly from the school. How is she doing?
And they made sure that they understood, what are the measurements and what does it exactly mean?
Yeah.
This is a really important point, and it resonates deeply because I read the book Unequal Childhood. And it was about different kind of cultures, upbringing, different kinds of societal level. And what struck me was that if parents don't understand the way the test scores and what does it mean and the graduate and the school system, then there right away starts it creates a distance between their child and school and the graduation, and it's really important that your parents did their utmost best to understand this system in the Netherlands, to make sure that they right away know, okay, he's going on the right path, or that's.
And that's something I do now. I have 3 kids.
Yeah, you told me.
And I made sure that every report card reading, I'm also present, hear firsthand how they're doing, how they're not doing. And by the way, my kids are doing well, so I cannot complain about that. But just making an emphasis to show interest in their education and how they do things is very, very important. And one of the things that I'm grateful for my parents is that, always have a roof over my head. I always have clothing. I always had food. And they made sure that I did my best when it comes to education, right? Because now I'm benefiting from, having a good education and being able to stand on my own 2 feet. So forever grateful for my parents for that.
Yeah, and that's interesting. If your oldest is now in the studio, you're not here. You're not here.
Yeah.
And your oldest is sitting here. And we had a chit chat and we're relaxed. And Then I'll ask, hey, but tell me a little bit about your daddy. Mm-hmm. How is your daddy? What do you think? Your oldest is a son,
a daughter.
Daughter, sorry. Yeah.
So she would say that I have a cool dad, first and foremost.
Cool.
I do a lot of cool things with him. But I think she would say that I'm also, I don't know the right word, but I'm also tough on them. So one of the things that I do when I get back from work is I'll ask, have you done your schoolwork? It's one of the, I wouldn't even say, hi, how are you doing? I'll say, have you done your housework? Have you done your homework? So I'm always talking to them about that. But I try to spend quality time with them. So they will say that they know their dad. We dance, we play music. I'm also very, very childish sometimes in terms of like being a kid.
Love that.
Because, I know that my kids are happy by how they also act when others are around. Yes. Can they be themselves, right? I'm very proud of, all of them, how they articulate, how they speak. And I think that's what they will say. But cool dad, I love sports. Yes, sometimes I take away the remote control because when I, but a loving dad. And we can also have meaningful conversations because sometimes my daughter comes, hey, Dad, can I talk to you about this? Recently, and maybe it's a little bit off topic, but
no, there's no.
She wanted to get more time on her screen, on her phone. Yeah. So she has 2.5 hours on the screen and 30 minutes on TikTok or whatnot. Yeah. So there's a limit. Yeah. And I was talking to this during dinner with my team and with my co-workers. In the evening, and then I told them that I have a time system on the phone and whatnot, and then 30 minutes later I got a SMS message or WhatsApp message explaining the reason why she would like to have more time. Dad, I'm going to be 14. I think I'm mature. I think I can handle, the responsibility of having more time. And I would say, this is a very mature 13-year-old actually asking for. So we laughed about it. And I said, you know what? I'll give you a month. If you can manage a month, then I'll give you more time. So I know she didn't make it.
No, but it's a great example. And what I also love, and what we spoke about before in our pre-conversation, is you make sure that for every 3 of them, you're also making high quality time one-on-one.
Yes.
Maybe you can share a little bit what you did with the 3 of them, because I love that, and it's a great example, Kobi. So I hope you don't. It doesn't bother you asking this question, but I really loved that we shared it.
Not at all. So the reason why is that when you have kids in a household, there's always some kind of competition. Everybody wants to talk, everybody wants to speak. Especially if you have 3. In our case, the oldest, when she was alone, she had a lot of everything was done for her, right? And then the brother came. Actually, didn't want a brother to come, and now she has to share the love that both parents are giving, right? And then a third one comes. So for the middle child is always adjusting to the firstborn and then the middle child. So me and my wife, we decided, it's very important to have quality time with individual kids alone. Time. So my wife does it with the kids. I do it with the kids. So last year we went to the Olympics with the middle one. We had a great time, quality time, spending one-on-one time, and having deep conversations as well. And that's why you also realize you get to know your kid, but you also get to know what actually goes in their brains, right? Because they see things. They see how you interact with your wife. They see how you interact with other kids. Sometimes they think it's not fair, right? And then you can have conversation around that. I went with the youngest one to London. So my youngest one is an up-and-coming football talent, I would call. He plays for Ajax, for the under-8 team. Boom. So we went to train with the under-8 team of Arsenal, and also other kids like Manchester City, Tottenham, and Crystal Palace, to just put him in a different environment, to learn. We went to see a few football games. My dad brought me to my first football game against Arsenal when I was 16 years old.
Oh, beautiful.
So I got to do something similar with him now. So that's something
Special.
that is always going to be remembered as well. And these are moments that you have. I'm going to Barcelona with my daughter this year in the May holidays. So I want to create meaningful relationship, meaningful conversations, meaningful memories that they will remember.
Yes.
Right? I can buy something for them, but they're not gonna remember that.
This is for life. I get goosebumps now.
Yeah,
This is for life.
Yeah. So that's something that we do, and we also do. We go to a local restaurant or how to call it, for breakfast one-on-one. So it doesn't have to be something that you go abroad, but just spending those one-on-one times, or even walking and then just talking. How was your week? How was your day? What are you doing in school? What do you think? What do you think? I also ask for feedback. So what do you think I should do differently? What do you? So we have really meaningful conversations with young kids, which I really enjoy for sure. And I hope that's something that I also read and understood. As your kids grow, you become more and more distant from them because they want to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. But I hope that I'm able to build a relationship with them that they always know they can come back. They always know I'm one phone call away. They always know I'm there to support them. And if I don't build those relationships later in life, they may have, a challenge. And then I'm not the first person, or their mom is not the first person they will call, right? So that's why I'm also doing this, to make sure that, we can support them in their life journey. And then we are one phone call away whenever they need us.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nothing to add, my friend. Nothing to add. Hey, also when I think about you and when I'm observing you and when we are having conversations, you come across as very grounded and very, grounded. Mm-hmm. Where does that groundedness and that without being overconfident, but confidence, self-confidence, where does that come from? Is that from upbringing? Is that from, how can we learn that? How where does it come from your side? The groundedness and your self-confidence.
Yeah. And this is a great question, Michiel, a very great question. If I think about it, I don't really know. If I really think about it, I think, it has evolved and it's evolved from a perspective of, understanding who you are. Being comfortable and confident in your skin. I've done something, I think this is maybe 7-8 years ago, a landmark forum. I don't know if you are aware of that.
Yeah, before in our brief conversation, we stumbled upon it and I was like, wow.
Okay, what is that? Yeah. So the landmark forum is actually like an institution where it's a 3-day where you are by yourself together with others, where you actually do a little bit of soul searching. And what I learned actually from that is, how you look at life, right? You can look at life. Everybody looks at life from a lens.
Yes.
And that lens can have a focus, or the lens can have other people's perspective, opinions. So I've learned that I should look through life through my own lens. Yes, it's important to get people's opinion and feedback, but that should not always dictate how I look through life. So I think that has helped me be a little bit more grounded in being comfortable in how I move and how I navigate. Obviously, I have an inner circle of people I trust that I bounce off ideas with, but that has helped me a lot, I would say, those 3 days in self-reflection and understanding why things are why they are. Because I went to the landmark forum not thinking, oh, I have a personal issue or challenge I want to tackle.
No, what nudged that? What nudged that?
I said that I think I have a great relationship with my wife. How can I make it greater? I think I have a great relationship with my kids. How can I make it greater? I think I'm doing pretty well in a professional setting. How can I make it greater? So that was the intention I went into that. And it opened my eyes like, hey, understand the value you bring to any conversation. Understanding your value you bring to any relationship, right? So that I think that has helped me be a little more grounded in how I move and how I navigate through life. So that's how I'll answer that question.
Thank you very much. And what's interesting is that this podcast is about our journeys of empowerment. It's of course in the name, and we normally start with the professional journey, and then we go to making the connection to the personal journey. And also having a lot of conversation about adversity, childhood experiences, trauma. It might be everything, but what I really also love about your story, that it doesn't necessarily have to be centered around adversity, which adversity and a childhood experience. It can also be, hey, it is great, but how can I make it even greater? So not from adversity perspective, or you need to heal from something, but more from, hey, it's okay, but I want to even step up my game.
Yeah. Well, I would say that everybody has a journey. And what I've learned is that through your journey, you will encounter traumas. And how you deal with those trauma is very important. Some people realize it, some people don't realize it. One of the examples that we talk with my wife about is that, our kids are growing up in a household, and they'll all have different experiences.
Yes.
They're not going to have the same experiences just based on how they look at how my firstborn, secondborn, and thirdborn, they will experience our household.
Same house, same household, different perspectives, different views, different,
Exactly. So I think it's our job as parents. How do we make sure we can bring our kids up with as less trauma as possible, because they will have some. And how do they navigate through that, right? And I really believe in self-reflection. In any situation that I'll encounter, I would say, hey, what did I do? What could I have maybe done differently? And what can I learn from that? That is really something that I really take home. And that has really made me also a better person, right? So I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to figure out, hey, what can I do differently? And how can I make sure that other people around me are also maybe looking at that as well? Because I really believe that self-reflection is one of the key things to success, right? If you don't know, then it's going to be very difficult for you to change, improve, or even capitalize on that. Agree.
And is that something you do deliberately? Are you journaling, or is that a momental thing, or regular thing, or what helps you?
Yeah. So I also learned this from one of my friends who manifested his career. So his name is Andre Doxy, and Andre Doxy is currently the chief creative designer for Lego. Believe it or not.
Cool.
But he started his journey at Nike, and I was in Portland a few years back, this maybe 10 years back even, and I went to one of his bathrooms in Portland, and I saw, a sticky note, a few sticky notes, and one of the sticky notes says, I want to be the chief creative officer for a big international brand. So I go back and I was talking to him, what is that? And he said, well, I have things that I want to accomplish that helps me remind myself. So I also have a few things. So one of my goals was to be head of talent acquisition at an international company, right? That was my my thing. This is something that I put down, I think 8 years ago or not. So every year I actually have a few things that I want to accomplish, and I've done it on personal, professional, couple, and family orientated.
Beautiful.
So those are things.
Also couple as in with your wife.
Together, yeah. So one of the things that we, for example, do is we do something called 24 hours with, right? So on a Friday, typically on a Friday, we leave our kids. Obviously, somebody takes care of them. It's one of my sisters. And then we actually stay with each other for 24 hours. So we're typically in a hotel, either in Amsterdam or Utrecht or whatnot, and we spend 24 hours with each other, right? Not being mom and dad, just going out for dinner, theater. Sometimes we don't do anything; we just sleep.
Enjoying each other's company.
Enjoying each other's company, because we are parents, and we always have, mom, dad, always around us. So you need to build those things together.
Is that on a monthly basis or a regular basis? Or
every 2 months. Every 2 months.
Great.
Yeah.
It's an excellent example.
Yeah. So that's something we do. We also look at our couple goals. What do we want to accomplish as a couple this year? Okay, more alignment on how we bring up our kids, right? Let's make sure that we spend more quality time with our kids individually, right? Because we do it, but are we doing it enough? Financially, how much do we want to save? What are the goals that we have? So we really tackle these things together with my wife, and we look at it, and then you focus on that, right? And then at the end of the year, you say, hey, was I able to accomplish that? My financial goals, my couple goals. What can I do differently about those goals? So that's something that we do often, and I've picked and learned from different people in my inner circle.
It's really amazing to hear, and I see you. But do you have are you both the same? Are you really on the same level when it comes to what works for you? And it doesn't necessarily have to work for your partner, right? So,
No. But it is understanding each other's differences.
Yeah, and
right?
respecting that.
And indeed respecting that. So that's something that we also talk about because she is not who I am, and I'm not who she is. How you know me as a person. We can go to an event, and if I'm with my wife. Obviously, I want to make sure that she's safe, and she knows maybe one or two people there. But I would just still be around a lot of people, but she knows me that's how I am, right? She's not going to change that. But obviously, I check in, once every 10 minutes or whatever to make sure that she's okay. But how she doesn't want to change me as well. She's much more in the background. She's much more somebody who's always looking for security. The smart one, the sensible one, observing. Sometimes she has a gut feeling, and she will share that gut feeling. Like, hey, this individual that you talk to, there is something, I don't know what it is, but and most of the time it is right. So we learn from each other, and we are like I said, very long together with each other. So, we have evolved also as
25
individuals.
25 years.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate it already? With the 24 hours?
No, it's this year is going to be 25. So
okay.
It's coming in June. In June we will celebrate. And then we're going to be married 17 years. So that's also something on the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, and when I look to you, and when I look at your this may be interesting. When it comes to the career goal, or you can say, okay, hey, you reach your goal because it was a long-term goal. You want to be in head of talent acquisition at a global operating company.
Yeah.
And which you are right now. And but what do you aspire?
I think I aspire to make impact. I aspire to be a role model in everything that I do. And that's also my purpose. Because I've seen, unfortunately, that we live in a world where there's a lot of inequality. I've seen how, if you don't pave the way, how difficult it is for the people coming after you, right? So I would say that's what I would like to leave behind. And there's also an element from a cultural perspective. In my culture, it's also very important who you are, right? Because who you are also dictates how people will look at your family. Right. So, for example, if you mention the name of my dad, my surname is somebody who fought for the country. So there is always an element of, hey, people aspire and are proud of that somebody wanted to fight against a regime and give back their country. If I look at my mom's family name, it is a name that is also prestigious because it's hardworking. We have lawyers, we have politicians, we have, entrepreneurs, everybody has made it. So when you mention those two names, there is an element of that people know, the Ampoma family, the Pianim family. And I want that to also be the legacy for my kids. When they mention their names, it's like, are you related to, Kobi? If you're related,
it's my dad.
It's my dad. Then they know, okay, how he is as an individual, how hard he worked, what he was trying to do, and the impact he was trying to create. Hopefully that rubbed off on them as well, right? Wow. So that they can also, utilize that and pave their way as well. Because I have bicultural kids. I know it's not going to be easy for them. Hopefully we're in a world where it's much more easy, not based on your name or not based on how you look like. But I would like to create something or leave a legacy where you say, hey, if you have any association with this person, you must be doing something good. You must be you want to make impact. That's what I want to leave behind.
Wow. Hey, you mentioned also there is something around fairness for you. It's a resonating word.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, I think it comes from a little bit of my upbringing.
Yeah.
I think coming to the Netherlands, it gave us an opportunity to build something up. But I've also seen in my career that I was not always treated fair. And I have a great example. I was promoted with a big international company early in my career. And typically you will get a 5%, a 10% raise just because you're moving to a different scale. And then we'll look in the scale and say, hey, where are you in the scale? And we want to make sure that you were 80% of the salary range, right? So I remember being promoted, getting my confirmation letter, and I only received 5%. And I remember talking to the manager who would hire me and say, hey, I got only 5%. Is there a reason why? I was expecting a little bit more. And they said, no, this is what you will get. And I said, okay, if that's the case, let me think about it. But what happened was that before I even got the formal offer letter, the company had shared internally that I was going to do the job. Right? So I didn't say formally yes, but everybody knew I was going to do the job. So when I said no, eventually, then I was all of a sudden, there was drama. Right?
Yeah.
So how do we explain why is he not going to do the job? And I was not going to do the job because I thought it was not fair. Eventually, this was a 2-week situation. I said yes. I got a 10% increase, and I said yes to it. But it was still not fair.
No.
And I'm talking to a white colleague of mine, maybe a week later, after all my thing was done. And I said, hey, how did your process go? And he was like, well, I got a 10% increase because it's part of the policy. They looked at my salary range, and I got another 12% because, it hit the 80% mark. And then I thought myself, how come I was not afforded this normal procedure within the company, right? So I thought I had to do something. That was the first time I really stood up for myself. So lucky for me, you know me a little bit as well. I'm very, very well connected within the company. So I went all the way up to the chief people officer. I booked an appointment to his assistant. I had a 30-minute slot. And I happened, 2 weeks prior, I was at Super Bowl with him at his house, right? So I go and he said, hey, I saw you in my calendar. What is the reason why you're here? I said, well, I think something has happened to me. I don't know what it is. It could be discrimination, but I just got promoted. And I think that the process was not followed fairly. And he said, I take these things very seriously. So let me take a look at it. Unfortunately, I have to name your name. It's not something you can investigate without naming names. No. Are you comfortable with that? I said, sure. And then a week later, I was pulled into a meeting and I got an additional 13% increase. Right?
Wow.
That is, and I remember
from 5 to 10, and then on top of it, a 30% extra.
Yes.
But what did that make you feel afterwards? Because if you have to fight so hard for the same position, yet at first 5%, so 5% less than normally somebody else. Yeah. And then making your point, and then 10%, but still you think it's bothering me, and I have to. And then after that, a 13% raise. How did that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel
accomplished or not, or sad or angry, or
well, I was angry at first because that was the first time I realized that, and that's how I also have this quote: "Decisions around your career are made when you're not in the room." Right? Because even though I had 2 or 3 conversations about, hey, I don't think my compensation is fair, right? There were people in the room who were making decisions who said no, right? Until I went all the way up to the chief people, and after his investigation, it came out like, actually, why didn't we follow the process? I would never know why that was the case, but there was probably somebody who thought I didn't deserve it, or somebody who thought I would take the job for less. One of those 2 options, right? So I really was proud of myself that I fought it.
Yeah,
that I
you
got
stood
it.
up. Yeah.
But then I also realized that, hey, in rooms where decisions are made, right, what is the perception that people have of you? Do people have the right one or maybe the negative one? You need to work on that. That's something that I always tell young people or talented people. Decisions around your career are made when you're not in the room. So think about what is being discussed in the room where you're not there, right? I can tell in your face, hey, you're a nice guy, but in the back, what am I actually saying? That made me really, really realize that it's not always a fair game, and you need to do your best.
Yeah, you can see it on my face. I'm really processing what you said, because if you want to help people to understand what you just said, is that decisions about you are mostly not made in the room itself, but when you're not in the room. Are you saying it's about also the reputation you're building and having, and your attitude and?
Correct. Well, how do you call it? Michiel, we have all been in leadership positions, right?
Yeah.
We talk about our team. We talk about how they're performing, who gets certain rating, who gets certain compensation, right? And typically, you don't always decide that yourself, right? You have an idea, you have input, but people in the room also challenge you based on the interaction they've had with team members, etc. So, as an individual, you need to understand who are those people in the room. Have they seen enough of my work? What is the perception that they may have of me? Is it positive? Is it negative? Right? How am I navigating within this company? Because when the decision comes to being promoted, you are typically not in the room.
Yes.
So you should have people in those rooms who can speak on your behalf. Typically, it's your manager. But if it's not your manager should have maybe an ally in there, right? That's why we talk about allyship in D&I space. You need to have more people, one or two, who can say, you know what? I know what Kobi is doing. I know about his work. I know, So that's what the message that I want to give people. Know who are in those rooms and have they seen enough of your work, right? Because sometimes your manager sees only 20% of what you do, but the other people you work with, they see a majority. That's why we ask for feedback, right?
Let me be also the devil's advocate a little bit, because this really makes me curious. So, do you also say with this that there is a certain level of politics you have to understand?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, because that pops up in my mind. I like, hey, but that's also a little bit, knowing how to, in a positive way, but know how to play the game, right? Because, and that's all about politics. So who knows who?
Yeah. Well, politics can be played in different ways, right? You can play politics because you always want to suck up to a particular boss, right? But politics, in my opinion, is how do you navigate the corporate space, right? You get hired to do a job in a specific department, and you, at least I hope that's the intention, you try to do a good job. But doing a good job, do you know who is seeing your work, who is reviewing your work, right? The impact your work is having. I think there's a lot of people who are in jobs who don't understand that part, right? So, for example, for me, how do I navigate my current role is that I need to understand who are my stakeholders, right? Do they know the agenda I'm trying to drive? Does the agenda fit what they are trying to accomplish? Are we aligned on those things? Am I getting the right resources to be able to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish? If not, how do I make sure that I take them along the journey, right? When you move up in leadership positions, that's what it comes down to. Leadership position is not always what you do, but how can you galvanize, how can you motivate, how can you inspire to accomplish the goal or the vision that you have for your respective function or department. So, yes, you need to be an expert in some areas, but not all leaders know exactly in detail what everybody is doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I would give.
That's the political side.
Yeah. And sometimes you grow up in a household that not everybody knows how to navigate, right? Where I can share that with my kids, or I can put them in positions to connect with other people who are in those situations, who can share that respectively with them, right? So I think that's important of having a network, of having mentors who can help guide you in those situations or narratives.
I can imagine if we step back a little bit and go to the point that the unfairness happened to you. I can imagine you are being angry at that moment. What happens within and outside with Kobi when you're angry? Because you come across as very calm and collected, very well grounded.
Yeah.
Points I just already mentioned. Yet, how do you manage that? Because you're also driven. You're also competitive. And unfairness and competitiveness if that mixed up with each other, you can easily become dynamite also. So how do you prevent that? What do you do?
Well, in my case, I shared it in the beginning that I played basketball on a high level. So there's also a competitive element in me. So then I want to show you that I can do it. And I want to show you I can be better. I think, people who know me from early in my career to now, they have seen a great transition and evolve person, right? One of the things that I've always said the same is that the person that I am, how I connect with people, that has not changed. Obviously, knowledge, I've gained a lot of knowledge. I've been in a lot of situations, but that's how I then try to prove people wrong that I can do it. Yes, I'm a little bit angry about it, but I never stay too angry too long. The reason why also is that I learned it also through therapy, is leaving Ghana, coming to the Netherlands also instilled looking forward in me. So I never really always look back. I never really take too long of a time to look back. I'm always looking forward. So if something happens, I learn from it, move forward.
Self-reflection, learning from it,
and
move on.
forward.
Yeah.
Never dwell too long on that in the past. There's something I also had to learn and gain insight on, is that my natural behavior, but I never really knew that I was doing that. Because some people, especially, for example, my partner, she wants to talk about it. She wants to stand still and then be able to move on. So
are you able to be patient at that moment? Because you are so forward-driven, and then she wants to pause and to have... And I can imagine, okay, how does it work for you? Then all of a sudden you're feeling at pause. And are you patient then?
To be honest, I'm a very, very patient person.
Okay.
I'm a very, very patient person. If I look at, how I manage people, I'm very patient. I'm always giving people second or third chances as well. But what I've learned is the patience is talking about it. So it's much more, hey, let's pause. Let's talk about this. Let's agree to maybe disagree, and then let's move forward. But my tendency is to move forward and not talking about it.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So that's the element that I've grown and learned to do.
We can easily talk for hours, right? So this is only, hopefully this will only be the first episode we're joining in the Journeys of Empowerment podcast.
Yeah.
Since we're heading now towards the end of this conversation, if there is one piece of advice for the 20-year younger Kobi with the knowledge of now, what would that be?
Well, I would say, know your worth. I think there's a lot of people, myself included in the beginning, who didn't understand their worth. I'm very connected. That has a certain worth to that. So understand that, what does it actually mean. And I would say, try to be curious in a lot of things that you do. Try to be open-minded in a lot of things that you do, because there's a lot of people who can help you along the way if you stay curious and you're open-minded, right? I think that's the best advice that I would give people.
And the 20-year younger version of you.
20-year-old version of myself, that's definitely something that I would tell people to do.
Kobi, thank you very much for joining Journeys of Empowerment. It was a pleasure having some time with you here in the home studio. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to say thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to share my story and my journey. And I hope that your audience can take one or few things. And I hope that people also get to know me a little bit better than they did before.
For sure. Thank you. Oh, and before we go, I want to introduce someone with a vision that might just change the way you see travel. Meet Virginia, the founder of Genie, where travel isn't just about places, but about people, purpose, and impact. She's on a mission to empower those often overlooked, turning journeys into opportunities for change. Right now, she's in the midst of a 6-week crowdfunding journey to bring this vision to life. Virginia, tell us, why does this matter? And how can we be part of it?
I'm Virginia Schelen, founder of Genie, an impact travel company on a mission to create greater equality through travel and storytelling. At Genie, we design package trips, retreats and workshops that connect people across cultures, while empowering the overlooked. Think of people of color, queer folks, those with accessibility needs and many more. All while we ensure our destinations thrive and make local communities part of the impact. So let's be real. Tourism has its downsides: environmental harm, mass tourism, and exploitation of resources, animals and people. That's why we do things differently. Every Genie experience leaves an impact, whether through action or direct financial support. So, to make our mission, greater quality through travel and storytelling, a reality, we started a crowdfunding round. You get the chance to help us shine and drive real impact. Here's how. You can make a contribution. Big and small amounts mean the world to us. So if you're planning a trip, check out our trip rewards. Second, please share this story with 3 people who might appreciate this. Third, if you have any connections to well-known impact-driven leaders or advocates, please connect us. Together we can make travel a force for change. Join the Genie movement today.